Hi everybody, I'm Scott Kilby. Welcome to D-Town TV, the weekly show for DSLR shooters of all brands, makes and models.
Hey, we are back with episode 34, and we've got Larry Becker's Cheap Shots. We've got another video from Scott Bourne. Yep. But first, we're going to kick it off with a tip from Scott on protecting your images.
Right. This has just come up recently, and I thought I better cover it in the show. It's about making sure that you don't lose the images that are in your camera, and what to make sure that you don't get stuck in the worst possible situation where you've lost the images altogether. Yeah. All right, so one of the things that I do as a safety precaution is when I go to a new shoot, first thing that I want to do, I pop the card in my camera. Very first thing I do is reformat the card. So I reformat the card every time. I talk to people who reformatted the card when they first got it, then they just individually delete photos, or they drag them off of the computer. Reformat the card, especially if you have multiple cameras. So if you've got, you know, two different bodies and stuff and you're swapping cards between the two of them, I reformat the card all the time. That's tip number one. Tip number two is, and this one was told to me by a stock photographer who ran into this situation. He actually shot and filled his entire card. So you know it says you have 3 shots left, 2 shots left, 1 shot left, 0 shot left. He got to the 0 shot left and it corrupted his card and he lost everything, and they were unrecoverable. It was really a massive, massive thing, and he lost thousands of dollars worth of images because he was on assignment. So two things that I try to keep in mind are always format the card, and I don't shoot it to where it's all the way full. I want to stop right before it gets full, so I'll leave 1 or 2 images left, because remember, you can just always pop in another card. Or what I'll do sometimes is I'll go back and look through and see if I've got some crazy shots where I invariably, especially if I'm walking with my camera hanging here, I have a lot of shots of my feet, things like that. You know, I'll go back and make a little extra room there. Now, what happens if you do take your card out and you pop it in, and all of a sudden, you know, it doesn't see the card or doesn't see the images?
Bad things.
Bad things.
Swear words.
Yeah, of course. Right after that, then there's a couple of pieces of software. Terry White turned me on to one. He's a buddy of mine, and he's a photographer. He turned me on to this software called Klix, K-L-I-X, from josoft.com. And it has saved me a couple of times. That is just really, really does an amazing job of rescuing the images off the card. Yep. Also, SanDisk makes one called SanDisk Rescue Pro, and that one you can download. They have also a Rescue Pro Deluxe. But the good thing is you can go to the SanDisk website, you can download some free trials of it. But these are for when you put the card in and all hope seems lost.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but if I can kind of add to that, because I have a story where just a few weeks ago, if you watched the D-Town show where I did the 5 tips for reflectors, I was traveling that day, so I backed up my computer the night before. Well, I did that shoot in the morning, and then I left, and my computer crashed. It was a big, big bad story. The point of this whole thing is that I deleted the photos off of the card, and I gave them to Brad Moore, our D-Town technical editor. Deleted them off the card. My computer crashed. I didn't have any copies of them. Well, I emailed Brad, and he hadn't shot with the card yet. He was able to actually use SanDisk Pro and recover those photos, so I didn't have to do a whole reshoot for it.
Right, and so that was my other point. Before I do format a card, I make sure that I have at least 2 backups. So I have 1 backup, say, on my laptop, and then I have a second backup someplace else. So there's just a couple of things to keep in mind, because there's nothing more heartbreaking than actually losing these shots. I don't care if they were stupid shots where you're just walking around. You feel like, if you lose them, you feel like
we're cheated.
The shot was in there. The one magical shot that got away was on that card, even though it probably wasn't. But it might be, and you always have that aching kind of thing inside.
Cool. Hey, we've got another segment from Scott Bourne. I think we closed out Scott Bourne's segment in the last show, but there's a pretty good chance there's one more, because I know there is.
Yeah, we have a counting problem.
There's a pretty good chance that this is the last one. I'm pretty sure it is. But Scott's got some cool stuff to share with us. Let's take a look. We are back once again with Scott Bourne from photofocus.com. Hey, Scott.
Hey, man. Glad to be here.
I feel like we haven't seen each other in a while.
I want to get an apartment here. I'm here so often.
And our clothes don't change. You know, I've got a lot of this shirt. You've got a lot of that.
Listen, I have a lot of Tommy Bahama shirts, and it just so happens this one came back into rotation.
All right. So we've been talking a lot about DSLR and video. And you've kind of gone over what makes this whole rig, from stabilization to the
Zacuto Z-Finder.
Z-Finder, which helps you see things, you know, a little bit easier. But I got to say, this part over here is my favorite part of the whole thing.
Yeah, this is called a follow focus, and this allows you to very precisely focus the lens and to do it smoothly. That's the big deal, to do it smoothly. And it allows you to get help if you need it. So in the movie business, they do what they call polling focus, which means there's a guy or a girl whose whole job is to simply turn this knob. They get paid for that.
Yeah.
They poll focus. So the camera operators, making sure that everything looks good exposure-wise and framing, and then the focus puller uses a follow focus or a device similar to this, more advanced in some of the movies, to make sure that we get focus. Now, this is tied to the Canon 85 1.2 lens in this particular case, with a little set of gears that are added onto the lens. People that see my Canon rig see these little gears on every lens I own, and they're like, what is that for? That's so that it can talk to the follow focus.
Gotcha.
This gear meshes with this gear, so that when you turn this knob, the lens moves. So the way this might be employed in a motion picture and a television show is to do what we call a rack focus move.
Which for photographers is,
This is
because we're not familiar with that
right.
too much. So.
Well, this is a way to take someone in the foreground and put them in focus and have an object in the background that's out of focus, and then switch places so that the background object is in focus and the foreground's out of focus. That's all possible because of the very narrow depth of field we can get on these super fast lenses, like I say, this Canon 85 1.2. Now, if this was an f8 lens, that's not going to work.
Work so good. And you see this, or you see this, we all see this a lot when we watch TV. We don't even know we see it though, but you'll see it a lot out there. It's really cool when you actually see the final effect.
It's a great storytelling device. It helps the audience know what they're supposed to pay attention to. And I think you're such a good-looking guy, Matt, that we ought to try this on you.
I should be a movie star?
Yeah, I should pick this thing up. You should head over there, and I'm gonna get a shot of you, and I'm gonna have you in focus, and then I'm gonna go past you to the monitors behind you and have them in focus.
Okay, and what's one thing to set this up is as you do this, we've actually set up a spot on the ground so we know where I have to go stand because Scott's already marked the thing up, and that's kind of how you do these things. Is you don't want to guess when you're there. You set it up ahead of time.
Just use a dry erase marker and put your number for the move.
Yeah, not a Sharpie, right?
Not a Sharpie.
All right. So off I go. On my mark.
So I'm going to pick this up, and I'm going to need an assistant. Is my assistant here? Jason's coming in to pull focus for me. And I'm going to start the shot.
All right, so Jason, a.k.a. the Scrib, is now going to pull focus for Scott.
And that's it. You look real good on video, man.
It's my first time. I'm really not quite sure what to do.
You're not getting union wages, so don't even ask.
All right, well, Scott, very cool stuff. If we want to find out more about that product,
you can get a follow focus from lots of places. This one's from redrockmicro.com.
Okay.
And of course, I write about all this stuff regularly on photofocus.com, or you can just follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/Scott Bourne. I'm always talking about this stuff because I'm obsessed with it.
It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, we appreciate you coming by.
Thanks for having me on the show.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
Hey, we are back, and Matt has a tip for you on using reflectors from a real-world experience you just had.
Yeah, so I shot a wedding a couple weeks ago, and amongst other things, the bride was just running all over the place, and I'm trying to follow them around. Well, I got them into a room where I kind of knew these were going to be some of the better shots we can get just from the location that we were in.
Oh, but back it up and tell them the missing part of this story.
What's that?
Where you didn't show up with a commander unit
Oh
to fire your
yeah. So
flash.
I borrowed a D3 from Scott, and I showed up the day of the wedding with my flash, and I got the easy box, and I was all ready to,
See,
do some cool stuff.
This is
yeah.
real world here. I'm not trying to embarrass you, but this is like part of the
not at all.
story.
And I usually shoot with a D300, but I borrowed the D3 because I knew we were going to have some low light.
Wow, that's embarrassing. Go ahead.
And so I showed up, and it doesn't have the on-camera flash to trigger the flash. So my flash was on the camera the entire day. It's a great place for a flash.
Yeah, but luckily your second shooter was there.
I didn't have a second shooter
the
either.
second shooter didn't show.
Out. So it's the day's going great. Anyway, I get into a room where I realize that these are going to be some of the better shots that we're going to have an opportunity at. So I've got on-camera flash. At first, I fired at the bride and groom. Bad shadows behind it. I do angle it up, okay, and I start to do some bounce, but there's still some pretty bad shadows behind them. And you can look at the image. We'll put it on screen here. And these are the shadows that I was talking about. Well, what I did have is a reflector, and I did have one of the groomsmen to hold the reflector. So what I did is I spun the flash around the other way and actually pointed it back and to the right a little bit, and I had groomsmen.
I'll be a groomsman.
You can be the groomsmen. So I'm sitting here shooting the bride and groom, and the groomsman is kind of just standing off to the back and reflecting the light back from the flash, okay? It's night and day. When you take a look at the before image and you take a look at the after image, it's a much, much better photo. We got light, we even got a little bit of directional light because I was able to just offset the reflector a little bit.
Can I do this again?
And, you can.
Sorry, I love that.
Isn't it fun to do?
It's awesome.
We could do almost a whole show on folding a reflector too.
You could with those big Westcott backgrounds that need like a whole video to learn how to do it. They go boom, they pop up, and then it's like hey, I got to tell you, it's nothing to do with anything. But Monty Zucker, who was just an incredible wedding photographer, he used to do that as a gag during his seminar. I went to one of his seminars, and he unfolds this thing, and it just goes bloom. So you think it would fold back easy, and he would hand it to somebody in the front row. He'd go, "Can you fold that up for me?" And then the whole class would just watch it. So if you don't know the little secret thing to make it in, you'll never get it back in a million years.
Secret handshake.
It's like a Rubik cube of pop-up things. I'm sorry, back to you.
Back to this. All right, so anyway, before and after images, you can see we got a much, much better photo. There is one little thing that we're gonna take care of in post-processing, so I'm gonna jump back over into our little post-processing area, and I'll show you what you can do to address it. So one of the things that you're gonna realize is that adding the reflector really helped things out, but it did illuminate the entire room. Okay, are there ways to fix this in camera? Definitely. I had about 30 seconds to get this shot. So it's cases like this where shooting for Photoshop is kind of okay sometimes because it is a really, really quick fix afterwards. So let's take a look here, and this is actually the before photo. Again, you can see those really harsh shadows that we were talking about. But here's the after image, and we illuminated the entire room in doing this. One of the things that you can do is go into your Develop module, go down to the vignettes panel and just crank up the lens correction settings, even post-crop, and you can really darken things, okay? The bride and the groom, I showed them a few different versions of the photo, and they wanted the one where you could see the big room and the fireplace in the picture, which lended itself very well to this because vignette just goes straight into the middle. However, if your subject is not placed directly in the center, let's go ahead and reset these, okay? If your subject's not placed directly in the center, what you could do is come over here to this adjustment brush, take your exposure down, and just take a really big brush. I show this all the time, but it works perfect. Take a really big brush, brush the entire photo, then click on erase mode and just come in here and just pop it right in on whatever you want to illuminate. Okay? And then you can always tweak the exposure after the fact in case it's too much, but that's a nice way too of going in there and just popping basically like a little spotlight right on the area of the photo where you want to draw concentration to, okay? Well, folks, there you have a little tip on when you do illuminate something, you want to tame that light a little bit, you can always come in after the fact. Now we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to jump over to Larry Becker's Cheap Shots.
All right, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, a little bit closer. Okay, that's it. Work a little bit to the side. Yep, there we go. That's it. Hold it. Time for a close-up. Brad, need 2.5 F2. Can I get that hair adjusted, please? All right, the hair's looking good. Looking good. All right. That's it. Work the hair. Work the hair. Come on. That's it. Give it to me. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes. Work the hair. That. Oh, look at the eye. Give me that. Oh, there you go. Beautiful. Excellent. Hold that pose. There we go. Beautiful.
This week on Cheap Shots, I want to talk to you about an inexpensive approach to speedlights. Now, it doesn't matter if you're on the Canon side or the Nikon side. I'm on the Nikon side myself. And I want to tell you why I bought SB600s. This one, $218 this week. I checked at Amazon, $218 for an SB600. So on my way to saving for an SB900, I can actually get a whole flash. It does a lot of the things the SB900 does. Now, granted, it can't act as a commander, and it does have a couple of less ports, and you can't add a battery pack to it. But I found workarounds for anything that is a shortcoming of an SB600, so I actually really like these. I highly recommend them. In fact, I have a blog about inexpensive camera gear and DIY stuff that I put that stuff on my blog, and one of my most popular posts was the one about the SB600s. People are saying, you know, I didn't think about that. I've been saving up for multiple SB900s, and now I can add the less expensive flashes into the mix and make it work for me. In coming episodes of Cheap Shots, I'm going to show you how to get the most out of these little things and how to add back some of that capability you didn't think they could do. But that's it for this time. I want to make sure that you know, if you've only got a couple of $100 and you wish you could save up for a Speedlight, well, look at some of the less expensive entry-level models.
All right, well, thanks, Larry. Now we're gonna jump over here to do kind of a little talk on bags, because we actually got a question on this recently.
We did. If you go to kelbytv.com/dtowntv, you'll find we have a comment section for each episode. And so we see your comments. Matt and I read each and every one of them. And somebody asked, hey, they saw the Kelly Moore bag that we did earlier, which is a bag, especially a camera bag, especially designed for women.
But we don't use.
Right, we don't use. But anyway, they were like, well, what bags, I'm getting ready to buy a bag, which do you use? Well, we have been on a search for bags forever. This is the one I fall in love with. It's from Think Tank Photo. It wasn't until Think Tank's gear that I fell in love. I had some I liked. This is good. This is what I'm using.
Yeah.
But they were always quite, this is the one, the International Airport. They make an Airport that's a little bit bigger, but the International one's smaller, fits in the seat pocket, the overhead bin, no problem. It carries your tripod, and I carry a regular 3 tripod, but I also carry my monopod on there, but it has a holder on the side. So in the front, let me just pop this open for you so you can kind of take a look. There's all kinds of pockets. Of course, there's a big pocket up front here with all kinds of stuff. You can put all your stuff in here. But in here, this thing holds, and it's weird because we joke about this all the time. This is the same size as other bags that I've had.
But you just keep pulling stuff
But
out of it.
it's like a clown car. You keep pulling stuff out. It holds it like mathematically holds more than it should. I don't know how, but I usually put 2 bodies in here. If I'm shooting sports, I'll put my 200 to 400 in here. I'll have room for extra lenses and all kinds of stuff. There's all these zippers. They're clear zippers, so you can always see what's inside, which I think is great. It's just got so many great features that a photographer designed it, right? It's not one of those ones where you go, an engineer designed it. An engineer, of course, did design it, and then in the back, it's got a secret pocket, and inside of there, they've got a little lock. It rolls great. There's little pockets on the sides. It's just like the ultimate. I never used a bag that I love more than this one. It's not super cheap, but you can find out about it at thinktankphoto.com. So there's that.
So I'm going to jump in on that too, because for traveling with your gear, that's the bag. Like when you got to take all your gear and get somewhere, that's the bag.
I know what you're going to say.
But I also have a favorite bag, which sadly I don't have here, because I have it at home. Because if I bring it here, I forget it, and I use it all the time. So it's a bag called the Boda bag. Okay, sounds a little bit funny, but it's kind of a lens bag. So when you get to where you're going and you want a quick way to change lenses, we'll pull some photos up of it on the screen here. This is the bag that I use. So when I was talking about shooting a wedding, that's the bag that I had around me because I have the lenses right inside there. You just flip the top open.
Yeah, you don't need a whole camera bag.
Yeah, I'm not going to carry that.
You've got one lens on there. You want to swap to 1 or 2 other lenses. I have the same one. I got their brand new one. And honestly, so I didn't take it with me on my last trip. I was in Holland just recently doing a whole thing for Adobe, and I didn't take it with me. And all I did was cuss that I didn't have it the whole time because. And where am I going to put my lenses? So now I'm having to leave each day, and I can take a 50mm with me, but I couldn't take anything else. If I'd had my Boda bag, and it straps around this way too, which I like because it's kind of like a holster. It's just incredible.
Yeah. So you can find out more. We'll put their website on the screen.
So I take 2 bags. All my gear goes in here, but also in my regular suitcases where I throw the Boda bag. When I go out for the day, that's when I load the Boda.
I fill it up with clothes and stuff when I pack it. Actually, I fill it up with stuff.
And then you take all the clothes out. There you go.
All right. Hey. If you're watching this on the day that it comes out or even within a few days of that, we're going to be at Photoshop World in Orlando. So make sure you stop by and see us, say hi, tell us you watch this show because we don't actually think anybody does. But,
March 24th, 25th, 26th in Orlando, Florida. Hey, also you can get a free expo pass there and come see the exhibitors and things. There's some free sessions on the floor and stuff. So even if you can't come to the full conference, at least stop by and come in, check us out. Matt and I'll be there. You'll see us wandering around and stuff. Hey, you know who else you'll see wandering around? David Zeiser, and he has got a brand new book. So he's one of the Photoshop World instructors. He's got a book called Captured by the Light, and we actually produced this book for him. So we produced 2 books so far. One was Joe McNally's The Moment It Clicks, and this is the second book that we've produced. And it's just unbelievable. It is already getting absolute rave reviews. I looked last night on Amazon.com to look at the reviews. He has 9 5-star reviews.
Stars, yep.
Everyone's raving that this is the book. This is the wedding book for wedding photographers. If you want to learn more about the book, you can of course go to Amazon or go to barnesandnoble.com or wherever you buy your books. Of course, bookstores everywhere. You can also go to my blog at scottkelby.com and search in the little search bar for Zeiser, and I do a video that explains how the book was developed and why we did it and why this is the only other book we've done except for Joe McNally's Moment of Clicks, because it's that cool of a book.
Folks, sadly, we're close to that time of the show, but we're not there yet. We do have one more thing because we like to leave you with a little inspiration.
John Wright Photography. So the website is John Wright Photo. This guy is awesome. He's got music photos.
Yeah.
So it's photos of like musicians and things, but also a couple of concert shots, but mostly portraits of musicians, fashion stuff, and fame. There's 3 categories. This guy is terrific. He's got a very unique style. Dig a little deeper in his portfolio. The deeper I went in his portfolio, the more clicks I made, the more I liked it. And he's got kind of a really neat interface too for his stuff. So go check out his stuff. Really, really great people photographer. Really great stuff. JohnWrightPhoto.com.
Well, that wraps it up for this week. On behalf of everyone, my name is Matt Kloskowski.
Good save there. Hey, before I say my name, I just want to mention, so we're doing a 13-week series. We only have just a couple of shows left, so make sure you're with us for these next 2 episodes. We do 13, and then we take off a month. And then we come back and do another 13, and then we take off a month. Then we do another 13, then we take off 6.5 weeks. No, anyway,
we won't do that again.
We won't do that. We'll see you guys right back here. I'm Scott Kelby. Thanks for watching, and see you here on D-Town TV.